A project years in the making, finally just a day away for light rail users.
Glad the link rail is here. Finally, it's been a long time coming.
Sound Transit will now have trains connecting downtown Seattle to Redmond and beyond as the Crosslake Connection goes into service, making travel easier for a growing number of people living around the Sound.
I don't use a car anymore. I just use the train, the buses, e-scooters. It makes it so much easier to get around.
And as each new station and connection opens, more people are seeing the benefit of choosing light rail.
You see the demand that people want to live and play and work near light rail and mass transit.
You can call it the grand finale of Sound Transit ST2 light rail build out, and behind me is the reason why. It was approved by taxpayers back in 2008, and then tomorrow morning you will see customers being able to use the 2-line across Lake Washington for the first time. And this is a massive feat technology-wise because it is the first light rail train going across a floating bridge. So a huge moment for light rail, a huge moment for Sound Transit. The Crosslake Connection will travel along the I-90 floating bridge connecting downtown Seattle to the east side. It connects the 2-line to the 1-line at the Chinatown International District Station. It also brings on 2 new stations. We'll have Judkins Park and Mercer Island. Engineers say the uniqueness of putting light rail on a floating bridge meant years of testing and planning.
Those waves reach a certain threshold, we have to reduce our train service so that we can maintain the bridge safety.
Sound Transit is using a system that monitors wind and wave conditions in real time to adjust service. This stretch will be inspected more often than the standard lines along the rails, mainly just because of the complexity of the design. Drew Andre will be live on the 2-line going over Lake Washington this morning, so he and I will have team coverage as we prepare for this huge event. He'll talk about how much the project costs, and he has responses from locals who voted for the light rail back in 2008. We'll check in with him a little bit later, and he will also tell us about the huge events that Sound Transit has planned for tomorrow to celebrate this iconic moment. So to better understand what it took to bring this together, the first of its kind of line here, we have Sound Transit CEO Dow Constantine here with us this morning just to talk more about that. Thank you so much for getting up early with us.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Of course. So Dow, let's talk about this moment. How huge is this for Sound Transit?
I mean, it's easy to stray into hyperbole about this, but this really is a major moment, not just for the agency, but for the region. This was a vision that goes back more than 60 years to connect east and west with rail across a floating bridge, and tomorrow morning we will have accomplished it.
And when we think about just the complexity of the design, of course, we talked about it being the only train going across a floating bridge. Can you talk about some of the delays and challenges you all experienced along the way?
Well, first off, people had to catch the vision, and all the way back in the 60s, folks were being asked whether they wanted to build this rail across the bridge. It took until 2008 for it to be approved. The construction, the design were obviously very challenging and unique. Along the way, we had a contractor who got into some challenges and had to redo some parts. But really between the innovation of the engineering, the unique engineering, and the tenacity of the people who are working on this over the years, we are able to deliver what is a unique piece of infrastructure.
Yeah, it was really cool to get to ride on it yesterday. All right, so a lot of people at home, of course, thinking about the future, thinking about ST3, and I know maybe it was a week or so ago, there was an update from Sound Transit about a $34 billion deficit. What does that mean for just the future of those other stations you have planned?
So when I took over as CEO a year ago next week, one of the first things I discovered is that there's this very long-term deficit. And so we told that to the board and the public, and then we set about to fix it. We have something called the Enterprise Initiative, where we are going to balance that 20-year plan. And the board and I am absolutely determined to get to Tacoma and West Seattle, to Ballard and Everett, to more points on the east side, and we are going to find the way to get that done.
All right, so we are looking forward to learning more about that, ahead in the years to come, because a lot of people are excited, because at one point it seemed like this was almost like a mirage, but we finally got here.
You take on difficult things, it's going to take a little time, there are going to be setbacks along the way, but if you stick to it and you stick with our region's hallmark, innovation, we can get there.
Dow, I know when we think about light rail, at first there was some misconception from, let's say, drivers and commuters about these trains kind of taking cars off the road, but you all always said it would give people another option.
That's right.
What do you think it will take to get some of those people to kind of change their lifestyle and take the trains instead of hopping in the car?
Well, we've seen as we've opened light rail to Linwood and to Federal Way that people discover it, they realize that it makes their lives better, easier, saves them time and travel, and they shift to rail and to transit. And that is going to happen on the east side as well, as people recognize that they can hop a train and get to that Mariners game in a very reliable time, or if they live in Seattle, they can hop the train and get to work at their technology job on the east side. It just becomes an improvement in their quality of life. Less time in traffic, less time that you have to allow in case there's traffic. You can rely on your trip and you can get some work done along the way.
Right, giving people another option. And I know one thing we saw, like especially for the Seahawks Super Bowl parade, where so many people took the transit options, but another thing that people kind of talk about is, parking. Are there any plans to kind of improve parking at some of those popular stations like Linwood?
So the farther from the city center, from the metropolitan centers you are, the more parking there is. The closer in you are, the more it is about walking or taking transit or being dropped off to take the train. There's a balance between how much you invest in parking and how much you're able to invest in expanding the system or operating the system, and that is what this board has to wrestle with over the course of the coming year.
All right, and really quick before we wrap up, what is something that you are extremely excited about concerning Sound Transit that maybe folks at home don't know yet?
Well, first off, on a personal note, my little daughter, who's 11 years old, is going to get to ride this train. I wanted to see the work that Daddy's been doing all these years. It's been keeping him away. But also, I do think that seeing the region transform to one that is built around these transit centers is going to be a remarkable advance. I've lived here my whole life. I've seen the sprawl happen, the loss of farms and forests. Having people be able to live and work close to transportation is a real game changer.
Thank you so much, Dow, for getting up early with us, talking about this. We are really excited to see what's to come, and of course the views from the train across Lake Washington. 10 out of 10. I got to do it yesterday.
Truly spectacular. Come out and see it.
Thank you for joining us. A little later we'll talk about all of the fun events planned around some of those stations that are opening tomorrow. So a lot more coverage ahead as we count down to that first train leaving Judkins Park tomorrow at 10 a.m. And Sound Transit will cut the ribbon and then invite the public on the historic ride across Lake Washington from the Judkins Park station. We'll take a look at the full lineup of events to mark this occasion coming up later in our next hour. And the long delayed light rail process, that's something we've been talking about. Across Lake Washington, though, we're finally here, and it promises a faster commute and new opportunities for businesses on both sides of the lake. King 5's Brady Wakayama looks at what riders can expect.
We're at the entrance of the soon-to-be Mercer Island light rail station. It's been nearly 20 years since voters approved this line, and now they're just days away from seeing it become a reality.
Glad the link rail is here. Finally, it's been a long time coming.
Over the lake and through the east side is the happily ever after many on Mercer Island have been waiting for.
I'm glad I'll be crossing over on the link rail, bro.
As far as on Mercer Island, it's the only way to go. So it's very important.
An essential way to connect the east side to Seattle. Sound Transit expects about 50,000 riders each day on the 2 line, with service every 8 minutes in peak hours.
I am looking forward to see it working at capacity with lots of bodies in the train.
This project has faced years of delays, from the pandemic to a concrete strike to contractor and quality issues.
We'll soon know if it was worth the wait, but I'm not shocked it took longer.
typical, but we're excited for it to open now, finally.
Businesses near the new Mercer Island station hope it boosts sales and eases commutes.
We're definitely going to be using the light rail, all of us. We have employees that take the bus. Now that the light rail's here, that's easy for them. So definitely beneficial for us as employees.
Despite the benefits, some on the island told us off camera they're worried the light rail will bring riffraff and potential issues to their community.
Did you want sauce for your tots?
But most people we spoke with
Light sauce.
don't see that happening.
I hesitate calling it riffraff or issues. I definitely think there will be a different demographic that it makes the island more accessible to. I don't know if it'll cause that many problems per se.
The wait may be at the end of the line, but for this city and the east side, a new era is just boarding.
I'm ecstatic, amazing, about time. It's about time.
And there will be opening day celebrations at the Judkins Park station as well as the Mercer Island station right here at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. On Mercer Island, Brady Wakayama, King 5 News.
Thanks for that, Brady. This morning we had the chance to speak with David Rosenbaum, the mayor of Mercer Island. And later in this hour, we will hear what he says about the Crosslake Connection and the impact to his city now that Seattle's light rail connection is extending over to the east side. So a lot of fun ahead just to talk about that. And thanks to the 2 line, you will now be able to travel, of course, from the east side to Seattle on that east side connection. This connection is something that city leaders in Bellevue have been planning for a long time, and they are so excited to see it be completed. Bellevue Council member Jared Neuenhaus spoke with me earlier about what this would mean for them.
I think we're very excited. Bellevue has always welcomed the world, and this is just another way that they can experience all the wonderful things that Bellevue has to offer. And it's once in a generation investment in terms of how not just Bellevue, but the entire east side connects to the regional transit system. So we're very excited about the opportunity and about it finally opening today.
So we know that, of course, some people got to ride early like I did. Have you been across Lake Washington on it yet?
Not yet. I get to do that later this afternoon. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, the views are gorgeous. This morning the mountain is out. That wasn't the case yesterday.
We couldn't have asked for better weather.
When we think about the 2 line, of course, for a little over a year now, it has been moving between Redmond and Bellevue.
Right.
What has been the response that you all have heard from residents about that?
It's been terrific. In fact, the ridership has actually exceeded our projections. So there's already been a lot of interest and a lot of people trying it for the first time and getting back and forth between Redmond and Bellevue for work, to visit friends, to explore some of our great dining options in Bellevue. So I expect that once this is open across the lake, we'll exceed those projections again.
Definitely, because I remember when the first phase was opening, that's one thing a lot of people were looking forward to. All right, I want to go into downtown Seattle. I want to go to Lumen Field. The Mariners opening weekend.
Exactly.
How huge will that be?
Yeah, that'll be huge. I mean, there's so many folks on the east side that want to experience the Mariners and the Seahawks, and of course, the World Cup coming up here very shortly. So this is a great people, especially for visitors to our city as well. This gives them another option to get downtown Seattle to take advantage of all the wonderful entertainment, dining, shopping, etc. that they can experience there as well. So it's going to be great.
And when we think about the city of Bellevue, have you all made any special plans concerning just now having this new connection?
No, not necessarily special plans. I mean, Bellevue's always welcomed the world, and we did create a special Bellevue police unit, our light rail unit, to patrol the trains and the stations, because we firmly believe that we want to keep Bellevue safe for everybody. And look, we made a huge investment in this new transportation system. We want to make sure people feel safe riding it no matter what time of day. So we're proud to do that and make sure everyone stays safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Safety, always important.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Neuenhaus,
My
for joining
pleasure.
us this morning.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And we know a project like this takes years of planning before construction can even begin. The vision of a light rail track running across the floating bridge is something that happened more than 4 decades ago. We just heard CEO Dow Constantine speak more about that a few minutes ago. It was back in the 70s when communities on both sides of Lake Washington formed an agreement about how a new bridge would be built. The deal permanently dedicated the center lanes to transit, but it wouldn't be until 2008 that an independent review team was commissioned by the state to evaluate create a light rail plan. They identified 23 issues that Sound Transit addressed in the final design. That design incorporated several engineering breakthroughs, such as custom bridges for the tracks and systems to accommodate the bridge movement. As commuters look ahead to see Sound Transit's new light rail system connect to them, state lawmakers in Olympia are looking at ways to improve that construction process. During this year's session, they passed a measure to give the agency more flexibility when applying for permits. Now, Sound Transit can apply for permits on land before they actually own it. They just have to provide documents showing they have notified the property owners when they apply for the permit. Lawmakers say this process will help reduce construction delays and make it easier to move ahead into those future expansions, because eventually the goal is to reach some of those places like Ballard, West Seattle, Everett, and Tacoma. So still a long way to go. And of course, we still have a lot more coverage ahead for you this morning on this huge feat. Still ahead, we will talk about what regional planners are noticing with major growth expected in the region. It's on track to become one of the busiest light rail systems in the country.
Well, I'm Drew Andre. We are here at the Judkins Park station right now, and we are about to hop on the light rail. We are going to take you on a tour over the I-90 floating bridge, plus have more on this mega project that is now ready to open tomorrow.
And this weekend could be a busy one for Sound Transit. Why some Mariners fans may be just as excited to see the Crosslake Connection opening as they are for the new season. I'm Shantae Sumter, live in Seattle along the I-90 floating bridge, where tomorrow the two-line across Lake Washington will finally connect Seattle to the east side. So it's an exciting time ahead. You know, the Seattle metro area is growing and the population is only expected to get bigger in the years to come, which could bring more congestion on the roads. King 5's Farah Jadrin has more on what local officials are saying about this and how Sound Transit's light rail system could be a key in the future.
Connecting Western Washington is moving full speed ahead, with light rail extensions pushing south toward Tacoma and east across Lake Washington. Regional planners say they're one step closer to realizing a vision that's been on the drawing board since the 1960s.
It's really great to get one step closer to be able to connect the core of King County, Seattle in particular, with Tacoma and Pierce County. We're getting closer.
The Puget Sound Regional Council sees light rail as more than just transportation. It's a catalyst for housing and jobs in rapidly growing areas like Federal Way.
Federal Way is an interesting place. It's one of our identified regional growth centers.
The stakes are enormous. A 25-year projection shows the region is expected to add 1.5 million new residents, and planners are building with that massive growth in mind. But some communities have been waiting years, even decades, for promised connections. So what's putting the brakes on the big plan?
Cost escalations have been a big challenge, and we're not just seeing that with transit, we're seeing that with all transportation projects. Every highway project that's under construction is dealing with the same cost escalations.
Planners admit the region missed critical opportunities. The groundwork connecting Tacoma to Seattle to Everett to Bellevue should have been laid generations ago.
This has been a dream for the region for decades, and getting to Federal Way is just one step closer to be able to connect to Tacoma. And we know that when we eventually connect light rail to Tacoma, that's just going to unleash some amazing economic development opportunities.
Currently, 125,000 people ride light rail every day, moving it into second place behind Los Angeles for busiest systems in the nation. And with the I-90 floating bridge, those numbers will only grow.
Is really going to become, and already is, the backbone of our transit system in the Puget Sound region.
I spoke with the Tacoma Transportation Commission about the future of light rail in the Grit City, and they told me it can't come fast enough. The city is expecting a population increase and job growth of its own. While still in planning stages, the commission is still hopeful and anticipating light rail service arriving at Tacoma Dome Station by 2035. In the King 5 studios, I'm Farah Jadrin.
Thanks for that, Farah. The Crosslake Connection will bring the light rail system to about 58 miles, but we expect that to only grow. It's expected to be more than double that number, 116 miles by 2044. So we are really just getting started. And coming up in just a few moments, we will continue to talk about that light rail expansion with the 2-line connecting more of King County actually through mass transit. We'll hear how county leaders feel about the Crosslake Connection. And then we'll have some live views from one of those trains with Drew Andre coming up. Good morning. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Shantae Sumter, live along the I-90 floating bridge where the 2-line connection connecting Seattle to the east side is finally opening across Lake Washington. It's a project that has faced delays. It's actually opening three years later than we originally expected. But King 5's Drew Andre on one of those trains this morning. It's a moment that people have been waiting for, Drew, but the views, especially for some of us commuters, might be worth it.
Right, Shantae, and right now we are crossing over the floating bridge. Just in the background, the mountain is out this morning, and this is the kind of commute experience that people are going to have starting on Monday, and of course starting tomorrow for the first rides that are going to happen here too. It's a pretty amazing thing, Shantae. I know you've been talking about it for such a long time, and of course there have been delays along the way, but as I'm sitting and crossing over on the floating bridge here, and it feels just like you could be anywhere else, I'd say a lot of people right now are thinking this is what the wait was worth it here.
All those buildings out there where that train is headed right now, all of those buildings are transit-oriented development. They are there because the light rail is coming.
In 2008, King County Councilmember Claudia Balducci was on Bellevue City Council when voters approved 34 miles of light rail. A longtime supporter of the project, she was the leading voice to open the Bellevue to Redmond connection back in 2024 when the floating bridge tracks weren't ready yet.
And everything we did was worth it because we're here today. Now, well, we should learn lessons from this, and in the future we should build faster.
The entire connection was supposed to all open at the same time, but it was one problem after another. Concrete plinths designed to hold the light rail tracks along the floating bridge were incorrectly installed by contractors. It ultimately forced Sound Transit to demolish and redo all of that work.
That's a quality control issue, and if we can get ahead of quality control sooner so that we don't have to go back and redo a whole lot of work, that will also speed things up in the future.
More unforeseen problems like the pandemic and a concrete union strike contributed too. The estimated total cost of just under $3.7 billion ended up tens of millions of dollars over budget. This has led to criticism, especially from opponents of public mass transit. But I decided to ask people who voted for the project.
And now, 17 years later, do you still support it?
From this small sample size, those voters seem ready for the payoff. We desperately need this. It's been a long time coming. Another wrote, I voted for this and can't wait to use. I'll be retired by the time it reaches me, but I plant trees, not for shade I can enjoy.
All right, and I also heard from a lot of younger people too that, of course, back in 2008, they couldn't vote, and their big response really was, oh, it feels like now we are going to reap the benefits of all of this. So we just got to the Mercer Island stop here. We're going to keep riding a little bit more, but for now, Shantae, we'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Drew. Enjoy the ride. And for those of you heading out tomorrow, of course, plenty of views to see. And coming up a little later, we'll tell you about some fun events planned. But as we mentioned, this is a project that has been in the works for almost 20 years, and it did face some delays, as you heard Drew just talk about. And one part of that is just the complexity of this design. That was something that engineers had to work with. They had to do something that's never been done before anywhere in the world, putting a train line on top of a floating bridge. And this also meant crossing over Lake Washington. The lake's depth and unstable soil made a typical bridge impossible, but engineers say the uniqueness of the project, it just meant years of testing and planning.
Those waves reach a certain threshold, we have to reduce our train service so that we can maintain the bridge safety.
Sound Transit is using a system that monitors wind and wave conditions in real time to address and adjust the service, so that's something you should plan ahead for. This stretch will be inspected more often than those standard rail lines as well. So as we continue to especially get into the fall, that's something you may notice delays along this line. But again, tomorrow at 10 a.m. those first trains will head out across Lake Washington, and billions of dollars have been spent on light rail infrastructure across the region. So coming up, we will talk about, as this access expands, will it impact those still relying on cars? Why researchers say you may not experience a big change to your commute. Good morning, I'm Shantae Sumter. Thanks for staying with us along the I-90 floating bridge, where the 2-line across Lake Washington will finally connect the east side to Seattle. So a huge moment for Sound Transit. King 5's Alex McClune got a special preview along the Crosslake Connection.
Well, this is going to be one of the best views for anyone who visits Seattle. A view of Mount Rainier on the Crosslake Connection when the mountain is out.
Sound Transit expects about 50,000 daily riders across the 2-line. To make it happen, it spent years testing and identifying potential safety risks.
If it's something new, you have to also really look at what other potential hazards could become.
Brian Holloway is a deputy chief engineer with Sound Transit, part of the team responsible for keeping riders safe. Because the tracks sit on a floating bridge, strong winds can create waves that physically move the structure, putting stress on the system. Engineers say when waves reach around a foot to a foot and a half, the trains may be slowed or reduced to a single track or even stopped due to higher waves. It all includes a system that monitors wind and waves in real time, though officials say those conditions are rare in Puget Sound. And even after opening, the bridge will be inspected more often than standard tracks.
Yeah, we're doing it 4 times a year on the floating bridge to make sure it's safe and continues to operate as we want it to.
After more than a decade of work, the payoff is a faster, more reliable connection between Seattle and the east side. In Bellevue, Alex McClune, King 5 News.
It's definitely something that will come in handy, especially when you think about how packed I-90 and 520 can get over the weekends. Things are actually slowing down right now on that Friday morning commute, so it gives drivers another option. We spoke to NRIX about this, and it said that Seattle drivers already spend more than 60 hours a year stuck in traffic, ranking among the worst in the country. Officials hope this new light rail line could help, but they caution it's not designed to fix congestion overnight. Instead, the focus is on giving people an alternative.
Being able to commute via transit is a whole different experience. That commute time becomes productive time or relaxing time or just sipping your coffee and scrolling your phone time.
Yes, you know, you could sit in traffic, or you could be able to sit on the train, enjoy the views, and as you heard them just mention, sip your coffee, maybe check some emails. So just another option. Now, one of the newest stations is on Mercer Island that will open tomorrow. King 5's Drew Andre spoke with the mayor of Mercer Island about the opportunities now being created because of this new station.
First, what have you been hearing from people that live here?
Yeah, folks are really excited. You know, we have folks that go both to Seattle and to the east side, further into the east side, for work in the morning, but also to welcome some visitors here to explore everything that Mercer Island has to offer.
Anyone that has been either a doubter of this or has concerns about this, what have you been telling them in Mercer Island?
You know, I've been telling them to get excited about it. You know, I think that there's some real opportunities here, both for commuters, but also to welcome people to come explore some of our awesome businesses.
Yeah, how much do you see things changing in Mercer Island with this happening, for as far as people maybe heading towards Mercer Island or just being around it more?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for folks to come to Mercer Island to visit our, you know, we have the best regional, the best independent bookstore in the region. We have a wonderful farmer's market, the best Korean restaurant in town. You know, we have a lot to explore here. I think we're really excited to sort of welcome people to, this is right in the middle of everything. We want people to come visit us here.
Yeah, right is. And so we're right here down on the platform at the station. So an area that is going to be visited a lot by people around here. How do you plan on using the light rail?
I'm really excited. I'm a big Mariners fan, and I take my kids to the Mariners a lot, and we're going to ride the to light rail, I think actually in a couple weeks, just to go to a game and hopefully they'll win.
Nice. Well, I would say starting tomorrow, people are going to be doing that here too. Okay, so also at a lot of the different stations, there are celebrations that are going to be going on. What will be happening here on Mercer Island?
It's going to be really exciting. From 10 to 2 tomorrow, just up here right on the top deck of our parking lot here, we're going to have about 90 vendors. There's going to be food trucks, big events for kids. It's going to be really exciting. Folks should come out.
That's very cool. That's going to be happening at other places. Oh, Rochelle over here with Sound Transit. This is some of the merchandise that's going to be sold over here too. That'll be awesome. some of the different stops that we're going to see too. So obviously this was a long time coming. People have been waiting years for this. What does it feel like to actually have it completed?
It's great. I think people are really excited. I mean, I hear every day that folks are really excited to use the light rail. They're looking to use it to go downtown either direction and also to welcome folks here. And people are just excited about it. It's a great opportunity for the city to really showcase everything we have to offer.
All right, we just got to ride it this morning. Sounds like you're this afternoon getting it tested.
I'll be on it this afternoon. I can't wait. The weather's beautiful. It'll be nice.
So as you can just heard them speak about lots of celebrations ahead, and the light rail, the 2-line, isn't the only thing that will be celebrated this weekend. It is opening day weekend, or opening weekend I should say, for the Mariners. So a lot of fans will have the opportunity to take the 2-line to tomorrow's game, and that's something we think they will take advantage of. So fans have that option. The initial goal for Sound Transit was to get the 2-line fully open in time for the World Cup this summer. So helping fans get to the downtown stadium district has been really a part of the plan all along, and it's something we've seen light rail do along the 1 line for big sports moments and concerts in the city. So as those trains start running tomorrow, they will give the first Mariners fans on the east side a chance to ditch the need for cars and parking. Instead, you can catch one of the trains that will be running every 8 to 15 minutes, really depending on the time of day. And fans we have spoken to understand the flexibility that light rail will offer them on game days.
I mean, it beats all that traffic over there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We love taking the light rail on over there because it's just super speedy. Don't have to deal with any of it. Can go hit the bars as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can hit the bars, have a good time, and not have to worry about how you are getting back home. So that is an option. Now, something to keep in mind for those of you planning to take the 2-line from over on the east side, it will bring you to the Chinatown International District Station. And at that point, you could hop on the 1 line and then ride it 1 stop down to the stadium area. But another option is it's only about a 15-minute walk from there to go on down to T-Mobile Park. So that might be, the easier thing to do if you are planning to head out. So several options. It's about 39 minutes to go from the Redmond station to the CID, and then you can take that walk as I mentioned just a few moments ago. So it is exciting. A lot more coverage ahead for you planned this morning. Sound Transit released those travel times between the station along the 2 lines. So we will talk more about what you can expect, how long it would take you to get from point A to point B. And then as we look ahead to tomorrow's opening of the Crosslake Connection, we are taking a trip back through the other expansion Sound Transit has completed, and we'll see what's next for light rail. It's now been nearly 2 years since Sound Transit cut the ribbon on the link's northern extension into Snohomish County. The landmark project was 16 years and $50 billion in the making. King 5's Drew Andre explains how this project is impacting the North region far beyond the commute.
The new Link light rail trains zoom by I-5 into Snohomish County.
This is a destination.
The end of the line, Linwood, where developers are moving fast constructing new apartment complexes.
It's going to be very helpful to just be that close to it. I can just walk across the street.
Kay Flores lives in one of those new apartments built in the last few years near the transit station.
It'll be nice to not have to commute through downtown Seattle for a lot of different things.
She also works down the block from the light rail.
Got your own step in.
At the physical therapy and fitness wellness business Experience Momentum, they believe light rail could bring in new business and just make it easier on some of their clients that battle traffic.
They're talking about how excited they are that they could just hop off the light rail and come over for fitness services or nutrition, massage, or physical therapy visits.
The city of Linwood plans to add 6,000 dwelling units in the city center over the next 20 years. banking on the convenience of public transportation.
Some people with work from home may use it 3 times a week. Some people may be using it just to get to downtown to go see a concert or a Seahawk game, Mariners.
City planners are already seeing the investment from private developers. Northline Village is one of the major developments under construction that will include apartments, retail, and office space.
It's exciting to see everything happening here, but we're also looking at where are we going next.
Thanks for that report, Drew. And that new station in Linwood has a parking structure with more than 1,600 spaces. Sound Transit says it is the biggest parking structure in Snohomish County. So, and we've also heard about, just the look to get more parking, but for now, that is the largest one along this stretch. Now, the Crosslake Connection, back to that, it marks another milestone in connecting transit, and it is a huge effort for our region, finally getting those trains across Lake Washington, which you see here on I-90 behind me. And it's going to expand opportunities really across the county. And to talk more about that, I have coming in right now King County Council Chair and the Sound Transit Vice Chair, Claudia Balducci.
Morning.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Good morning.
Thank you.
All right, so when we think about getting to this point, we face some delays, but what does it mean for you to finally see King County riders having access to that?
Oh my goodness, it has been 50 years and more of a dream, 20 years of building this project, and it's just so exciting. It's so exciting that we're finally here. We're making world history. We're putting the first ever train on a floating bridge, and we're going to create a system. Right now we've got one line and a little stub, and we're going to connect them, and we're going to have a whole system where people from East King County can get everywhere, north, south, Seattle, and vice versa. It's really going to create amazing connections and convenient transportation.
And we know with speaking with you earlier about this project, you kind of talked about being more efficient on these new expansions when we think about the future of light rail. What are some of the lessons you think that you all have learned from this?
So many, but two of the biggest, governance and decision making. So the elected leaders, we took a long time to decide where to put this train. We added probably between 2 and 3 years to the project timeline because it took so long to decide. If we can move our decision making faster, make a plan and stick to it, that will bring the new light rail alignments along faster. Second, construction and construction quality. We had some major problems on this bridge construction that were a quality control issue. If we had caught them again earlier, we could have, perhaps fixed and sped up the construction instead of having to tear out every plinth on this bridge and replace it again, which added a lot of time.
And when this goes right into my next question, when we think about the expansions and the plans you all have ahead, we spoke earlier to CEO Dow Constantine about that budget shortfall that you all are facing. Do you believe that you will be able to still do the current plans for Ballard, West Seattle, Tacoma, and so on?
So I think another lesson to take from this ferry project is we never quit. We ran into a lot of problems. We had lawsuits, we had ballot measures, we had all kinds of challenges, and we fought and won through every single one of them to get here today. And that is the ethic and the energy we need to bring to ST3. I am very convinced we will get there, but we got to figure out how, and we got to move as fast as we can.
And for you, you work with Sound Transit and being a council member. One thing you hear a lot of people talk about is, affordability around here. So we're building these new trains, but then, for some people, they have to live so far away from these connections. What are you and the council doing to try to just make sure that things are affordable for everyone, so everyone can benefit from these?
Absolutely. I heard you talking before about access and parking. We've created a lot of parking so people who don't live right near the line can drive to it and park and get on to the line. We also run the bus system. King County Metro runs our local bus system. Sound Transit runs our regional bus system. We need to provide service that allows people who don't live right near this amazing, efficient, affordable transportation option to get to it. That's our job. But we know that tens of thousands of people are going to ride this every day. So it's really going to be an option for many, many people.
And with this new connection for people, over on the east side, finally being able to get into downtown Seattle easily and vice versa, talk about just how transformative this is for the region.
It's so fun to get even the starter line. I was so proud of the agency for taking up my call to open up the stations rather than wait. Watching people use those 10 stations, people who live in downtown Redmond and work in Bellevue, it changes their lives. They can walk, they don't have to bring the car, they don't have to pay for parking, they don't have to pay for gas. Now open that up to the whole region, that kind of access and convenience. And for not just for work, for families, for people who want to go downtown to a ball game. The Mariners just started, and now after this weekend, you'll be able to take the train to the ball game. It's going to make the region feel smaller, closer together, and more connected. I don't know we even know exactly all the ways it's going to transform how we live and move around, but I know it's going to make life easier and more joyful for many, many people.
And it also, like you all have mentioned, gives people another alternative than just sitting in the traffic. So before we let you go, one last question. I know you all have big plans ahead. Which phase or which thing are you most excited about?
Well, for the next few days, I'm going to be just totally celebrating this. I mean, I've been telling people, our kiddo was 3 years old when we took the first vote on this thing at the Bellevue City Council, and that kid is 20 now.
Oh, okay.
So we've been working on this a long time, and we're just going to celebrate this and then immediately turn to, I'm very excited for the next thing we get to open, which is probably West Seattle, just because it's next. Because if we keep showing the public that we can expand little by little by little, and each extension makes the system more useful, more convenient, more of a daily activity for everybody, I think the more we build the public support for the entire system.
Thank you so much. So King County Council member Claudia Balducci, also Sound Transit Vice Chair. We appreciate you joining us, and we just look forward to much more openings down the line.
Yeah, hope to see you out there on the train.
Oh yeah, it's an amazing time. So tomorrow morning, the first train will leave Judkins Park at 10 a.m. There's going to be lots of fun ahead. So coming up, we will have one last look at what you can expect as we celebrate this huge feat. Welcome back to our continuing coverage of the Crosslake Connection finally opening on Saturday morning. Completion of this marks a major milestone for Sound Transit, not only linking the east side to downtown, but also finishing out the 2 line. But while quite the feat, there is still more to come. Sound Transit moves on to ST3, which voters approved in 2016. This $54 billion project includes an expansion to West Seattle in about 6 years, with Tacoma and Everett around a decade out, then Ballard in 2039, and both Issaquah and Everett by 2044. So a lot more ahead. Billions of dollars have been invested in Sound Transit infrastructure to expand light rail across the region. And as the light rail expands, drivers are wondering if that will increase or improve, I should say, those commute times. But the answer isn't clear cut. Even though light rail extensions have opened, other factors have improved or have contributed to those drive times. If it feels like traffic has been getting worse, you're not imagining it.
The geography of the Seattle area, there's only so many north-south connections that you can use. And so I-5 is the major one, and 99 is the other one, and it's easy to get stuck in the traffic.
Ryan Avery is the deputy director at the Washington State Transportation Center, studying how people move through the region. He says the light rail system plays a major role, even if you don't feel it behind the wheel. Light rail now carries 120,000 passengers a day, a 20,000 increase over the year since the Linwood extension opened.
Even if half of those people came from Linwood, you're talking about the whole day, and that is less than 10%. It's like 6% of the traffic that's on I-5. And that's if every single one of them shifted from driving a vehicle on I-5 to riding the light rail. And we don't really know where they came from.
NRIC's researchers pulled data on travel times on portions of I-5, 405, and Highway 99 a year before and after the Linwood extension. Southbound on I-5 and Highway 99, travel times actually improved by about 1 minute. But northbound, travel times increased by 1.5 minutes. And 405 got worse in both directions, up about 1 minute to 1.5 minutes in delays. Avery says several factors are at play. Revive I-5 work and return to office mandates likely drowned out progress that could have been made. Plus, Sound Transit didn't increase train frequency. That will change when the 2-line across Lake Washington opens. Trains will run every 4 minutes instead of every 10, more than doubling capacity. At that point, researchers think we could see a noticeable difference. Avery says even when people do switch from driving to transit, the freeway traffic tends to fill the space they leave behind.
I think that the effect, anything that gets slightly better, there are also more people moving to the region. The region is still growing. And so that slight gap in capacity gets taken up by something else. So we're making it less bad, which doesn't sound great, but that actually is a really great story to tell.
Researchers are puzzled by how traffic congestion has bounced back to pre-pandemic levels, even though more people are working from home now. Even as new extensions open, CEO Dow Constantine says it will not affect traffic congestion.
Provides more certainty, provides more convenience. You're able to reclaim that time for your family and for your life. But it is not a magic solution to congestion on Interstate 5 or any other highway.
And we've heard them say this all along, so it just gives you another option. You could sit in traffic, or you can be able to do something else while riding on that light rail train. But yeah, it looks like that congestion will be sticking around for the time being. Looking ahead to tomorrow, though, the 2 lines officially will kick off at Judkins Park at 10 a.m. So let's take a look back at how we got here. Light rail was first approved by voters back in 1996. In 2003, work began on what was then called the Central Link, now known as the 1 line. The first phase opened in 2009, running between the Westlake and Tukwila International Boulevard stations. Later that year, the airport station opened. Then in 2016, Angle Lake was added to the south end, and the north end was extended to Capitol Hill and UW. Going on from there, the second light rail package funded the Northgate extension that opened in the fall of 2021. This pushed the 1 line north to the U District, Roosevelt, and the Northgate Mall. And finally, we reached the next phase. Sound Transit didn't stop there. Line 1 continued all the way into Snohomish County with the Linwood extension. 8 miles of new track opened in August of 2024, connecting Shoreline, Mount Lake Terrace, and Linwood. And finally, the Federal Way project, which opened back in December, extended the 1 line into South King County by nearly 8 miles parallel to I-5, and it included 3 new stations. Construction began on that one back in 2020 with a total price tag of $2.5 billion. It brings the light rail one step closer to one day reaching Tacoma. But for now, of course, we enjoy the moment. That's what this weekend's all about. Those trains finally coming across Lake Washington with passengers. And if you want to be one of the first people on the route tomorrow, here's what you need to know. The grand opening celebration will kick off at 9 a.m. at Sam Smith Park with a ribbon cutting and street fair. The first train for the public on the Crosslake Connection will then leave the Judkins Park station at 10 a.m. There's going to be prizes, a lot of fun ahead, and of course, we'll have you covered. Thanks for sticking with us. Have a great day.